In an increasingly complex and unpredictable global landscape, understanding the intersection of politics and economics has never been more critical. The dynamics shaping international relations, trade, diplomacy, and geopolitical risks affect not only governments but also markets and businesses worldwide. Today, we bring these intricate realities into focus with an expert who has pioneered the field of political risk and helped decode the chaotic global order. It's a privilege to welcome Ian Bremmer, a renowned political scientist, author, and the founder of Eurasia Group, the world's leading geopolitical risk research and consulting firm. Ian's insights have shaped how policymakers, business leaders, and media understand emerging global challenges. Thank you so much for your time. Mr. Bremmer, in the context of the newly signed Saudi-Pakistan Mutual Defense Pact, which is amidst escalating Middle East tensions, how do you assess the implications of this agreement for regional security dynamics, particularly with Gulf states diversifying their alliances?
That's right. It is happy to join you. And as you say, it is an effort to diversify alliances. It's an effort to rely less exclusively on security on the United States. And there are a lot of countries that are doing that all over the world, a lot of hedging going on. I think the most specific precipitating event was the decision of the Israeli government to bomb the territory of Qatar. And one Qatari security member was killed. They were going after Hamas political leaders, and they failed. But the United States certainly didn't do anything to stop it. And they did very little to complain about it afterwards. There's no punishment for Israel. And if you're Saudi Arabia, this is a fellow member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, that is an unacceptable response. And so Saudi Arabia, thinking long term, not thinking just the next 3 months or 1 year, but decades, is recognizing that the need to ensure that they have a broader array of security partners around the world is growing. And that's why, I mean, this isn't a coincidence. That's why they made that decision.
And considering Pakistan's nuclear capabilities and its historic military ties with Saudi Arabia, how do you see this pact represent perhaps a strategic shift with potential risks for South Asia, especially for India?
Certainly, it's going to make Pakistan feel like they are geopolitically stronger. Their principal ally remains China. That's not changing anytime soon. That's where they're getting most of their military support. It's where they're getting most of their shared intelligence. But the fact that they have a better relationship with Trump through crypto investments and other investments, including with Trump's own family, certainly makes Pakistan feel more welcome, more confident, stronger. And yes, it is true that Saudi Arabia has been helping to fund Pakistan and their plutonium program for many, many years. And it had been an open secret that Saudi Arabia, in an event of crisis, considered Pakistan's nuclear program to be Saudi Arabia's emergency nuclear program if they ever needed it. That's something that was discussed well before Trump became president. But the fact that they are now openly declaring a collective security pact is a very significant new step forward. And again, yes, I think it strengthens Pakistan and their hand and the influence they feel like they can exert in their neighborhood.
So, this is also coming in the backdrop of Operation Sindoor, which was seen as a massive success, carried out by Indian armed forces. Do you see this pact perhaps alter defense postures or deterrence calculations?
Look, I think that if you're India and you have an ongoing, very severe border security issue with Pakistan, that military conflict has escalated significantly in the past months. You've got big challenges to the longstanding water agreement that India is essentially suspending their participation in. These are all things that make everyone recognize that in the future, there's a good chance we're going to see another military altercation. Now, if that happens and Saudi Arabia is committed to come to Pakistan's defense, if I'm India, that has to factor into my calculations of what are the consequences if I decide that I'm going to engage in bombing, drone strikes directly against Pakistan territory. I mean, clearly, that even though we don't know exactly what the terms of the agreement are, in any collective security agreement, there's a military attack against one, the other is obliged to come to their aid. And so, yeah, that's going to change life for India, no question.
And Mr. Bremmer, just few hours ago on your X handle, and I must say that I follow your tweets very, very closely, you have quoted Oscar Benavidez, correct my pronunciation here, "For my friends, everything, for my enemies, the law." It's revelatory and philosophical at the same time. In an uncertain geopolitical atmosphere, Mr. Bremmer, where the axis of friendship is changing and there are no permanent enemies, certainly, how should this tweet of yours be read?
Rule of law is only legitimate when it applies equally to all citizens in a country. Rules of the road globally are only legitimate if they are upheld equally for countries and other actors around the world. We've seen just in the last hours China's defense minister categorically reject the idea of a return to the so-called law of the jungle. But in an environment where we don't have global leadership, where there is a great deal of disagreement among the G7 countries in what they believe in and what their values are and what they will support, what they will oppose.
That's right.
And that's even more true among the BRICS. Then what you see increasingly is a world order where the rules apply selectively, where the weak are meant to suffer as they must, and the strong and powerful do as they will. And increasingly that's true in many countries around the world as well. It's a world with much greater impunity and, of course, with much greater chaos, with much less collective security. That's really what's meant by that pretty evocative quote.
So it is essentially a jungle law which is being applied by multiple global leaders right now?
Certainly, if you're Russia, you feel like you can do whatever you want because you're the most powerful in your neighborhood, and you're not going to be stopped by the Ukrainians, who are a lesser force, by the Europeans, who can act in only a limited collective way, and by the Americans, who have shown that repeatedly that they don't really want to be involved in leading the resistance to support Ukraine. If you're Israel, you are the strongest military power, not to mention nuclear power, only nuclear power in the Middle East. And I mean, Israel launched attacks on 6 countries in one day last week. And they can ensure that not just they can deter their adversaries, but they can increasingly eradicate their adversaries. And there's very little that anyone can do to stop them. And of course, most importantly, the United States can choose to rip up trade agreements, tariff agreements, security agreements, Um, and you're going to have to, if you want to continue to enjoy a privileged relationship with the United States, unless you're very powerful and can say no to the U.S., as the Chinese have, for example, then you're going to have to hold your nose and ignore what you thought was a commitment by the Americans, and recognize that they're much more powerful than you. And so for now, you're going to have to do what they want. And there are many countries around the world, including India, that are having a very hard time navigating that.